Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you know what you want, you feel the answer, you know that you need to speak up or take a different action, and yet you do the opposite anyway? Maybe you get a text from somebody new that you're dating and you immediately sense, ooh, I don't know if this is right for me, or ooh, I'm not sure that I should move forward with this person. But instead of saying that, you instead do the opposite. You ignore that feeling and you text back like everything's fine and you kind of go along with it. Or maybe for you, it's, you know, that the job environment that you're in is no longer aligned. And maybe it hasn't been for a really long time, but instead of truly acknowledging that feeling, you kind of go along with it. You smile every day, you do the work, you probably are taking on more work than needed. Maybe it's tolerating a friendship or relationship with a family member that increasingly with each interaction, you feel weighed down. And instead of having a hard conversation or acknowledging how you truly feel, you continue to go along with the relationship and gaslight yourself into why you should maintain that relationship. So this episode isn't about identifying what you want. You already know what you want. This episode is about uncovering why you know what you want, but you're still choosing something else in the moment. And you're probably aware that you're choosing something else in the moment. If you're new here, my name is Bethany Dotson. I am a somatic therapist, a trauma-sensitive yoga therapist, and a relationship coach for high-achieving women who have survived narcissistic abuse, often in the form of a long-term marriage or relationship. They often have childhood trauma and psychological trauma that affects their relationship patterns in adult life. So let's get into why is this happening? Like you're not in a toxic relationship anymore. You're not ignoring overt, blatant red flags, but you are still like subtly staying in the same pattern of not being fully honest with yourself and choosing safety. So if you were in a marriage and you ignored red flags with your ex, when you noticed those red flags the very first month that you were dating and you kept going and you walked down the aisle knowing in your heart and in your body it wasn't the right thing to do, but you kept going anyway, that's a big, more overt version of this pattern. You're not in that overt version of this pattern anymore, but your safety mechanisms have now become a lot more sleek and sophisticated. It's like the flu, right? You get a vaccination for the flu every year, and they make that vaccination for a certain variant of the flu virus or certain variants of the flu virus. But once you get vaccinated, what happens is that a lot of people still get the flu because the flu virus is smart enough to morph and transform and outsmart the vaccination. So this is kind of what happens with your trauma patterns. You exit the toxic relationship, you go to therapy, you go to EMDR, you read up about codependency, maybe you join a 12-step CODA group, you learn that you have an insecure attachment style, you gain all of this information, and maybe you even do, you try speed dating or online dating, and you're like, okay, I want to turn over a new leaf here, and you make these attempts to change, and then you're still staying in the same place. It's because these patterns that you have that got you into toxic relationships have just become more sophisticated and subtle. Why does this happen? The first thing that I want to mention is that insight alone will never, I really emphasize that, heal your trauma or heal the patterns that you have in relationships. It's the first step. It's like the top layer of icing on a cake. It's like the first thing, but it doesn't help you make different choices in the moment. Why do you do that? Even in the moment when you know you shouldn't and when you know better, the main reason is because doing what you've been doing in the moment when you're making these sneaky self-sabotaging habits, it is because that feels safer to your subconscious mind and your nervous system versus taking a bigger risk of getting uncomfortable, of being a bit more confrontational, of being a bit more direct, of risking rejection, of risking an uncomfortable feeling that you probably don't want to feel in the moment. A lot of women who tolerate shitty relationships, they often complain that the person that they've been with is really great at bullshitting them, is really great at avoiding hard conversations, is really good at avoiding emotional, like their emotions. They don't confront, they don't deal with their emotions very well. But the thing that we often don't want to acknowledge is that we possess those same traits ourselves, just in a slightly different variation. So you ignored your own feelings, you ignored your own emotions when you were with a toxic relationship, when you were with your ex. Why do you do that? Because in the moment, what's happening is you're creating a sense of safety. You're creating a sense of certainty. And if you also have a previous history where you grew up in an environment where your needs were invalidated, where your needs were not important, where maybe you had a parent with a mental illness, or maybe you have some adverse childhood experiences, like you are more predisposed to ignoring your own signals because you had to do that when you were little to survive the environment you were in. And when you're little like that, those survival habits get really ingrained in your brain chemistry and your brain wiring, and it literally alters the way that your brain is wired, and thus alters the way that you feel things. So all this to say is that if you complain about people bullshitting you and people not being emotionally available for you, this is going to be a confronting truth. It's that you're also, in certain ways, not because you're wrong or defective, but because of this ingrained trauma, you're bullshitting yourself in so many ways. You are avoiding your own emotions in so many ways. If you find that you know that you want more, you have a clearer picture of what you want in a partner, and yet you're still entertaining these habits, even in the moment when you're like, I really shouldn't be doing this, but like some compelling force is like, you can't help yourself and you keep going forward anyway. That whole thing is your nervous system that's been trauma programmed from long ago showing up in the moment. And what's happening in that moment is that you're trying to create safety. And when you're trying to create safety like this, it does not protect you from pain. It prevents you from expansion. And I've worked with a lot of women who have lived in this pattern for well into their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And it's incredibly defeating, and it feels incredibly frustrating. And it's so easy to like get into the story of like, this is not work. This is never going to happen for me. Like, I'm just meant to be alone. And the irony is that the most powerful thing that shifts this type of trauma in relationships is a healthy relationship. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Like, you have all this shitty experience, and of course you don't want to open your heart to love again because crap, like you've had so much heartbreak and turmoil and pain. Like, who wants to do that again? But at the end of the day, not necessarily just a healthy romantic relationship, but a healthy, really safe relationship is the main healing component for that. It's not talk therapy. It's not EMDR. It's not even somatic therapy. These are tools that can help move you across your journey of getting to a healthy relationship. But at the end of the day, it's the lived experience of that healthy relationship and learning how to navigate conflict without mortally wounding each other emotionally. Like it's about creating that emotional safety in the container of a relationship. So if you feel that you find yourself in this video and you're like, okay, I don't know what I've been doing wrong, or maybe like you do know what you're doing wrong, but you don't know how to get yourself past that point of making a different choice in the moment and doing it consistently, then this is where working with somebody professionally can be very, very valuable. And to be more specific, working with somebody who has skills and training and certifications and experience in working with relationship trauma. There are a lot of people that I've spoken with over the years that have been in therapy, but they don't really like their therapist. This is another example of choosing safety in the moment instead of expansion. Staying in therapy or staying with a healing practitioner, even though months and months are going by and you feel like you don't really like this person, you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, you don't feel like this person is challenging you. I talk to a lot of women who will stay in those situations because it's safe. And tolerating something at the risk of, feeling uncomfortable or confronting those feelings of rejection or making somebody feel bad is a lot easier in a lot of cases than doing the hard thing. So if you find that this video is really like confronting you and you are ready, like you're tired of standing still, you know that you are your own worst enemy, you know that in ways that you can't see, you're keeping yourself fenced in, then there are two options that you have if you would like to explore the next step. The first step is watching my free training, which is Break the Cycle. It goes over the high level overview, the 5 things that I help my clients master to overcome this type of trauma, and the shifts that you can even start implementing today on your own if you want to start seeing some tangible changes. If you watch that and you're like, okay, I really feel like I need somebody in my corner to push me. And if you would like to explore the possibility of working together, the next step for that would be to book a free consultation call. And you can go to BethanyDotson.com/talk. I think that's the link. I'll put the links down at the bottom of this video. And we'll just have a no obligation. I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy conversation because it's essentially going to be kind of like a coaching call where, I'm going to mirror your stuff, point out, hey, this is what you're doing. And we'll probably do a little bit of somatic work on that call just to help get past any maybe anxiety or stress that you're bringing to the call, so that you can kind of tap into the deeper, wiser part of you that already knows the right path and the right answer for you. So if you're feeling called, I need somebody in my corner to help me see what I can't see, and to help me move past and to help me break the cycle, then exploring the possibility of working together might be the next step for you. And if so, I'd be happy to hold space for you and see if it's a good fit. As always, it's been a pleasure being with you today. If you have any questions about what I covered today, or drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer you in the comment section. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week.